Good day. Welcome to Westchester Talk Radio. WestchesterTalkRadio.com. I'm John Marino. We are produced by Sharc Creative. Made possible by Robuston Oil, a house that service built. By Michael Labriola, landscape design and construction of Armand. By Hightower Westchester, managing your wealth through fiduciary standard. And by Jaguar Land Rover of New Rochelle, White Plains, and Mount Kisco. Here on the Sports Report, we are joined by Dana Comfort. Dana Comfort is the treasurer for the committee that puts together the Glenn D. Loucks annual track and field games at White Plains High School. The 2022 iteration of the games just a few weeks away now, Thursday through Saturday, May 12th through 14th. Featuring the top track and field student athletes from Westchester, around the Hudson Valley, throughout the tri-state area, across this country, and in Canada, and from down on the islands, too. Dana Comfort, welcome back to Westchester Talk Radio. Your efforts to help great to have you here. The efforts I know you are involved with to help put the games together every year, mostly on the financial side, considering the pandemic and what we talked about a year ago, the effect of the pandemic on raising money, raising funds. How has 2022 gone in that realm now as we try to get back to normal as best as possible?
It's going very well in 2022. We're raising more money than ever since I've been involved, which has been 5 or 7 years. And we have more people giving to us. We probably have 120 donors so far this year, and we're doing very well. I think we're going to have a great games. Fred Singleton is out there recruiting all over the Northeast and Canada. I think we're going to have a great games this year.
Fred Singleton, the meet director for many years over at White Plains High School. Dana Comfort, you talk about how you're raising more money than ever this year. What's the reason for that? Are people trying to make good for what's gone on the last 2 years and we had no games in 2020?
I think there are a lot of former runners from White Plains who are giving. Fred Singleton was on the first New York State winner of the Loucks games back in 1970. He's bringing about 17 of his classmates from Mount Vernon High School back to the games. And they've been a source of money. And then former students who have been giving some pretty big money to the games. It's just been amazing.
Might we get Fred's old teammates to get out there on the track, on the course, and have a little competition with them? Amongst them? How do you think Fred would do? Fred would win, right?
I don't know. He's
still in great shape, no doubt about that. Dana, 2 years ago, no games. Last year, the scaled back version of the games. This year, hopefully, the games, as much as what we know the Loucks games are, as best as possible. Do you see that happening where it's pretty much a return to normal now?
I believe it is. At last count, this week, we had 167 high schools sending athletes, and we're still almost a month away. So, and the deadline for registering is still, like in 3 weeks. So we have, I think we're going to get about 250 high schools sending athletes. So I expect we'll have, around 2,700 or 3,000 high school athletes at these games.
Wow, we were at about 250 and 2,500 for a number of years, got it up past few years to over 300 schools and more than 3,000 student athletes. So I think to get back in that 250, 2,500 range, that's quite an accomplishment after all that's gone on.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years because many school districts would not allow their athletes to leave their area because of COVID. It was such a problem. But people really do want to participate. And I think, the athletes are really looking forward to this really well-run event. I mean, this is a top-notch track and field event.
Mm-hmm. I have a young cousin over at Shoreham Wading River High School. on the island in Suffolk County. Some years they come. I'm personally hoping they come this year because my cousin Ezra Johnson takes part in 5 events, 5 full-time events over at Shoreham Wading River. And I've told him that he knows all about Loucks and he's ready and raring to come if the school decides that they will come. And I've told him, when you come here, you got to have game. You got to have game, Ezra. And he said, don't you worry. I said, Ezra, I got to be able to walk around and tell people, hey, that's my cousin out there. He said, don't worry. He said, you will. All right, so let's see what happens with that. But do you get the sense amongst schools and from student athletes that regardless of COVID, regardless of maybe even another variant coming along now, like we hear about the BA2, for example, or what else might be down the pike in the next few weeks, who knows, that they just want to get out there and do their thing regardless of what. I'm not
exactly.
It's just, this is what we do. Let's go do it.
Right. This is, I think the athletes are raring to go. They're in. The coaches are contacting Fred Singleton and says, where do we sign up? And it's getting easier to sign up all the time. Young woman in Vancouver, BC, she's got her plane ticket and she'll be here. She's at this point, at the top time for a mile. Maybe for United States and Canada.
Mm-hmm. I know up in Canada that they have, I think they're restriction-wise, they're a bit tougher right now than what we're doing here now in this country. So might that get in the way, impeding Canadian athletes who could and should be here that may not be here as a result?
I think it's different for each district. This you have to be sponsored by your school, and so that takes a commitment from the athletic director, from the principal, and there's a meet in White Plains, New York. So some high schools are more enthusiastic than others in Canada. So sometimes it's there's a lot of paperwork involved. So sometimes principal may not be that involved and won't get the authorization for the school to send somebody. Mm-hmm. If you got a good athlete, a lot of them are going to make it.
They'll be here. They will be here. Dana Comfort is the treasurer of the Glen D. Loucks Track and Field Committee over at White Plains High School. The annual games upcoming May 12th through 14th, Thursday through Saturday at White Plains High School. Dana Comfort, with the the competition that goes on, all the great competitors that come here from around North America and the Caribbean to the games every year. Do you get the impression that these kids look at this event, and the coaches too, as I have to do my best at Loucks because this might help me get a college scholarship or pave me on the way to wherever it is I want to go next after high school, help get me there. If I show my stuff at Loucks, I can get what I want.
Yeah, I think for many athletes, there's just a pride in being able to participate, and it's a well-known meet. So a lot of kids, even if they're not going to be in the top 3, they want to compete, and I'm always impressed by how much enthusiasm there are for the Loucks games when these kids come on the track, and then when they get on the podium, they are proud young people, I tell you.
Here's a quintessential Loucks story, and I've told this story before. It happened before the pandemic. I was at Roosevelt Field Mall on Long Island. Now, through my connections, I have some Loucks paraphernalia, shirts like this one here, for example, that I'm wearing, and Loucks jackets also, too. And you see the crest over here. Where did it go? Here it is. Here's my Loucks crest on this shirt, okay? And caps and hats, etc. I got a lot of good friends, okay? I don't know how they stand me as a friend, but I got a lot of good friends, so I get some paraphernalia here and there, and I get to wear it, too, like I am now. But I was at Roosevelt Field Mall wearing a Loucks jacket, and I was looking for a particular store, even though I know that mall top to bottom. I thought I knew where the store was. I said, let me check at the concierge. I walked over with the jacket on at the concierge, and the young man there looked at me, pointed at me as I walked over, and he said, Loucks. He said, I wanted to go there, and my coach only let the girls' team go. kid who would run at Amityville High School on Long Island. And I guess at Amityville, basically, it's a little bit more, I don't want to use the word slanted, but, focused a bit more on the girls. And he was really disappointed that he never got to run at Loucks at Amityville because he thought maybe the girls got a little bit more promotion than the boys did there in Amityville High School. And they have him point at me from a distance and say, Loucks, I always wanted to run there and my coach wouldn't let us. He wouldn't let the boys go. I think that's the quintessential story about what Loucks is all about, what it means around the tri-state area and around this country too. And you, like we said, up in Canada and down on the islands too. If you have track game, you want to be at Loucks.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we have had some great women participate.
No question.
A couple of years ago, and the girl from Bronxville, Mary, she was top miler.
Yep.
And then
and Caitlin Toohey from North Rockland a few years ago too.
Yeah, and all the runners from Saratoga Springs, they produce some, some real fast people, especially in the longer distances. So it's been great.
Do you think sometimes student athletes look at Loucks as being more important than even their own league and conference meets? And I mean that seriously, because to do Loucks, you have to focus on this. You have to look at the calendar and say, what I will do now from this date onward, whatever that date might be, has got to be geared to Loucks without giving what you have to do locally short shrift too.
Well, I'm not that familiar with the schedules for all the high schools because I don't work at the high schools. I'm a retired guy. I'm mostly the money guy. I'm not. So
you're retired in name only.
Their stories,
name only.
But this has been such a pleasure for me to be involved and a part of this. There's a lot of spirit. There's about 25 members of the Loucks committee who put this on, all volunteers, and they're very enthusiastic and put on a great meet.
So what's the pitch when you go out to try to raise money for Loucks? What do you say?
Well, as you know, the Loucks got started in, 54 years ago, 1968. Mm-hmm. And the reason for the games is because there were race riots in White Plains and many other towns and cities across the nation that time. And the founders wanted to do something that would let people participate in a very positive way for people who are from the city, from the suburbs, from rural areas. And it worked out back then, and it's still working that way. We still get participants from all of those things, and the sportsmanship is just terrific. I can remember last year there was a relay, and it was a photo finish relay between these two teams, and it was like 100th of a second. I'm sure it was a photo finish that decided only 100th of a difference in a 4x100 relay. And 20 seconds after the meet, these guys were all shaking hands and congratulating each other. I wasn't even sure who won the race, but they were just congratulating each other. No animosity about who won. It was just great to see. Mm-hmm. Good sportsmanship.
I know they figured it out in the end, as they always do with a photo finish at Loucks and elsewhere too. And you talk about the camaraderie between kids, between schools, between student athletes. One thing that always impressed me through the years since day one, since I know the Loucks games from back in the late 80s when I first came to Westchester at that time, I was so impressed by the way all the schools and the kids would get together, stay at area hotels. A lot of that was put together by Joe Falcone, who passed away recently. Joe, one time White Plains councilwoman as well, too. And I would have Joe as a regular guest on the old WFASAM in White Plains to talk about Loucks, to talk about White Plains politics, too. But the work she did with the committee through the years and getting all these kids together and being responsible for housing for all these kids, so much went down through the decades thanks to Joe Falcone.
Yeah, that was my first involvement with the games, is housing student athletes at our house. We really didn't know too much about the games, but the word went out that they needed housing for the athletes come from far away. So we did that for a number of years. It was a great experience.
Mm-hmm. Now, what are you looking for from a financial standpoint from here on out this year? Is there anything specifically that needs to be funded for these games?
Well, it cost about $90,000 a year to put on the games. There are no paid employees, but we do have awards which cost like $27,000 a year. Beautiful trophies that they give out for the people who are winners at the games. But there's timers, wind instruments, many things. It's a big effort, and so we're probably going to raise around $45,000 this year in donations, and then there'll probably be another $45,000 in entry fees to do this. So it's about a break-even proposition, but it does get more and more expensive each year. So
especially with inflation now too, right? That has to be figured in. And I don't mean that as a joke. I mean that has to be figured in just in case that happens to affect the Loucks games budgets, obviously.
Well, we get the word out, and we keep being surprised each year. So some people step up and say, "I'm going to raise money for you." We had a student from 1994. He lives on Long Island, and he's going to be raising money for the Loucks games to make sure we don't have any shortfall this year.
Is the key to everything the mindset that no matter where you come from, this is a community experience, especially not only in White Plains, but around Westchester and the lower Hudson Valley, home base for Loucks, that everybody wants to be a part. And you look at, for example, the seating committee at Loucks that Fred Singleton puts together with top-notch track and field coaches from around Westchester, Section 1, some schools out on Long Island, and more. This is just, to me, just a great community event with the expanded community of everybody who takes part in Loucks, no matter where you happen to be from.
Yeah, we have, I hear a lot of enthusiasm amongst all of the high school kids, and we have about 60 officials that run the meet. They're all professionals and licensed officials for high school, probably college games as well. And it's just a well-done meet.
Dana, for anyone who would like to take part financially in helping to support the Loucks games, what should one do? Who should we
glad you asked.
Who should we send a check to, et cetera? Bank account information, routing numbers, et cetera.
Oh, all right. Okay. Glad you asked about that. There is a website called theloucksgames.com.
And let's not forget to include the word the Loucks Games, THELOUCKSGAMES.com.
Okay, thank you. And there's a way to pay with a credit card through PayPal on that, or checks could be made out to the Loucks Games, care of White Plains High School, 550 North Street, White Plains, New York, 10605.
By the way, is it .com or .org?
Ways. It's .com.
That's what I thought. I get mixed up with those .coms and .orgs. So, yeah. Especially when you talk politically to somebody and you see different governmental entities, and some are .com, some are .org, and you wonder why they're not all the same thing. So, yep. So the Loucks Games,
right.
.com.
Yeah.
That's the place to go find out.
But if you look up the Loucks Games, you'll get there.
Yeah, without a doubt. As you know, that's what I do too. Look up Loucks Games and say, try to remember .com, .org. If you don't remember, go the Loucks Games. It'll come up and take you where you need to go. We'll find the website. Dana Comfort, thank you. Glad the Loucks Committee found you a few years back in all you've done as you've taken over from the legendary John McCarthy as the treasurer at the Loucks Games. So much of what goes on every year is thanks to you, Dana, and the whole community does say thank you for that.
My pleasure to be affiliated, John, and it's a good thing for me to do to contribute to the community. It's really a great meet. I'm proud to be a member.
And this would not come off every year without people like you. Thank you, Dana Comfort, here on the Sports Report on Westchester Talk Radio. I'm John Marino. We are produced by Sharc Creative, made possible by people like Robeson Oil, the house that service built, by Michael Labriola, landscape design and construction of Armonk, by Hightower Westchester, managing your wealth to a fiduciary standard, and by Jaguar Land Rover of New Rochelle, White Plains, and Mount Kisco. Catch all of our Westchester, Rockland, Putnam, and Dutchess, Orange, and Fairfield County Talk Radio programming on our YouTube channel, Sharc Creative YouTube, and download our app. Take it with you 24/7, anywhere and everywhere you go. It's called Westchester Talk, courtesy of Sharc Creative.